Let's tell a story about the underworld today. China has been up and down for 5,000 years, and I don't know how many strange things have been buried underground. After the story, people often encounter some strange things when digging wells, digging up some things that make people's scalp tingle, such as a basin-sized toad, a lifelike human corpse that lives up to 1,000 years, and Tai Sui, who can make people suffer bad luck. Today's story is also related to digging a well, but what is dug up is even more harmful and frightening. 70 years. Vowing Tiandahan. Several villagers dig wells in the fields, due to the low water level. So the villagers dug deep, but inadvertently dug a hole in the ground. The hole in the ground is bottomless. The man who dug the well fell into the hole. Life and death are uncertain. The rest of the men brought ropes and went down to the bottom of the cave. But I saw a terrifying scene that I had never seen before. They didn't dare to go any further. Don't dare to linger either. Hurriedly return to the ground. This will be escalated. An improvised expedition was formed above. Go down to the burrow again. At the end of the cave in the ground, the expedition found a bronze city gate several feet high. It's a long way away. You can still feel the chill coming from the cracks in the city gate. Above the gate is an inscription. The word zigzag. It's like a ghost flower charm. Some of the people in the expedition team who knew this kind of word saw it. I was so scared that I couldn't possess my body. He trembled and told the others. It says the Iron Gate, also called ghost books. It is written for the dead. The words written on it are, in city. The story is going to start with my neighbors. A lonely old man said. The old man's name is Li Jianzhong. In the past, he was a famous high school student in the village. In those days, those who can finish high school are talented. It can be said that the diploma is very high. The future should have been close. However, he responded to the call to go to the mountains and go to the countryside. Go to the remote countryside of northern Shaanxi. I made a close relative. That's 7 years. Returns 7 years later. But he has become insane. God babble. He used to tell people, there is a God in this world. There is Buddha. There are also ghosts. He said that he had been to the underworld. I've seen the Naiho Bridge. Walked through Huangquan Road. Said that the yellow spring is inside. There is no muddy water now. Instead, they were piled up with bones. It's like the truth. And his house is full. Books about fairies and ghosts. Spend all day studying those stupid ghosts. That's particular about that. The era of breaking feudal superstitions. It's incredible. It's also a great rebellion. So people think he's crazy. Grinding and fighting. Otherwise, why a top student will embark on the wrong path of feudal superstition? People thought he wasn't normal. Naturally, he avoided him. There were also quite a few people who laughed at him. He can fight. I asked him if he had been to the underworld. I didn't see the cowhead and horse noodles in the underworld. Black and white are impermanent. He was silent for a long time. Said that the Een gods in the underworld are already dead. People say you bragged about it. Then the hall burst into laughter. He knew people didn't believe, and he said no more. Since then, these things have rarely been mentioned again. There wasn't me at that time. These deeds of him. I heard it from others later. Decades have passed in a flash. This life of him, it's all spent in that pile. In the hut of fairy and ghost books. He was destitute in his later years. No children and no daughters. It's very bleak. My grandfather used to know him. Plus it's neighbors again. He often asked me to bring him some rice and noodles. Gradually, I got to know him. He has read a lot of books. Miscellaneous. Covers a wide range of topics. He often tells me some bizarre stories from books. I was fascinated by these kinds of stories. He often visited her. That's it. Another 7 or 8 years passed. She was very old. The body is getting worse day by day. It's about to die. I'm sad. She's like an elder to me. A loved one. I don't want her to leave me. I am sad. But she still died in that cold winter. Died on the first day of the new year. The night before she died. I also visited her. A plate of dumplings was sent to her. It was Chinese New Year's Eve. She was lying on the bed. Hook your body. Wheezing was heavy. Difficulty breathing. I saw incense burning in the house. Smoky. He frowned. The window was opened. I told her, don't keep lighting incense. Not good for the body. She smiled, struggling to sit up. Then he asked me a very strange question. She asked me, I don't believe that there are gods in the world. If there are really gods in this world, there are bodhisattvas. Then how can so many good people suffer? Murder and arson. Repair the bridge to make up for the sea of black corpses. Why is it happening? The mortals and bodhisattvas must be those who admit evil and promote good, he said. I don't know why he said that. And then he told me. An incident happened when he was an educated youth. That's what happened. Led to the tragedy of his life. This is something that can be shocking to the world. It's just that no one would have believed it at the time. The voice of the old man Li Jianzhou. There is a hissing horror in the vicissitudes of life. He stated slowly. It's like going back to that era. Those countless days that woke him up from his dreams. It was my last year as an educated youth. One day I was working in the fields. Suddenly, the village chief hurriedly found me. The village chief was followed by a man. The dress is very particular. It's like a leader. The man walked up and got straight to the point. Asked me if I'm an educated youth from the city. I nodded. The man said that there was a task for me in the organization now. Asked me if I'd like to do it. I naturally agree. It's just a trivial matter such as writing propaganda slogans for the village. But I saw the serious look on the man's face. But I felt that something was wrong. The man took me to a field at the east end of the village. It was guarded by militia. I was a little surprised. Not sure what happened. There were already a few people waiting in the field. One of them is the famous Mr. Yin and Yang in the village. I used to see feng shui in the village. Tibetan, immortal graves, and others will look for him. Sometimes he also gave people fortune-telling. Calculate the father and the murderer. And it's 8 or 9. Quite effective. Because the surname is Wang. So the people in the village called him Wang Banxian. It is said that when he was a child, he once worshipped a cloud-wandering Taoist as a teacher. I have practiced with him for a few years. So there are some ways to go. You can see feng shui to break yin and yang. It was only later that the village responded to the call from above. Break down feudal superstitions. Grabbed him for a snack. Pull it out every day to make him repent. There is no shortage of sins. He also saw people in the past as a quiet living half immortal. It has become a magic stick that everyone sees and increases. There are no people who live now. Ghosts are not ghosts. I don't understand why even he was called. Among those people was the village chief's brother-in-law. The militia regiment was built by connections. I heard that he was about to become a platoon commander. This man is ruthless. There is no shortage of people on weekdays. So the people in the village were afraid of him. That Mr. Yin and Yang naturally didn't suffer from him. So stand with him. They didn't dare to raise their heads. A crowd of people were there talking. I don't know what I'm discussing. I'll take a look today. There is a hole in the ground. Bottomless. It's still cold inside. There are tools for digging wells next to it. I knew it as soon as I saw it. There must have been a problem digging the well. At that time, the wells were dug by people. Something you could dig up. It's hard to say to anyone. I often encounter some supernatural things. Sometimes digging and digging. I can't dig it anymore. Pour a basin of black dog blood on it. The soil immediately loosened. Someone in a neighboring village dug up a python the size of a bucket. At that time, it was important to break feudal superstitions. A few people digging wells were afraid of being labeled as feudal superstition, so shouting the slogan of defeating all demons and monsters. Beat that python to death. As a result, he didn't even return home to the city in the evening. All died on the road. When he dies, he bleeds. Binocular expedition. It's like seeing something horrible. Later, the cause of death was investigated. It is said that he died of courage. That is, scared to death alive. The leader who brought me here saw that everyone was ready. And he told the story. Sure enough, it was exactly what I suspected. It's just that I didn't expect it. What happened would be so paradoxical. It turned out that this guy was sweating recently. There was no water in the ditch. You can't water the ground. A few people in the village drank and calculated. So he planned to dig a well in the field. Burning sweat. The water level is also low. I dug for 3 days in a row. It was dug more than 10 meters deep. There was no water yet. By the 4th day, the people digging in the well are digging and digging. Suddenly, there was no movement. The people above shouted a few times towards the well. No one responded either. It was pitch black down the well. I couldn't see what was going on. One of the above. And he went down the rope from the well to the bottom of the well. That's when I found out. It turned out that a hole was dug in the ground. The man who used to dig in the well fell into a hole in the ground. Life and death. The hole in the ground is bottomless. Below the cool rope. The man wanted to go down, but the length of the rope is not enough. So he went up the well. Find a long rope. I'm afraid that there is danger in the hole. So he called a few others. Got off the police together. Several people didn't know how long they had been climbing down. Finally reached the bottom of the cave. Take a flashlight and shine like this. The head blew up. I saw that the hole was very wide. There is no end in sight. As far as the eye can see, densely packed with cave masters. Or stand or lie down. It's like an ice sculpture. They all had different expressions, but most of them seemed to be miserable. Some hold their hands together to keep warm, apparently frozen alive. And it's amazing. They were all dressed in ancient costumes. Split the loss of the generation of the armor, armed with a gunshot. It seems to be an army of antiquity. And the man who fell into the hole earlier. It's good to see. It happened to fall on the spear in the hand of the cave master standing in World War I. Was pierced in the head. Already dead. Binocular doesn't have to. Staring straight at a few people. Several people were scared enough. Don't dare to stay. Bright and choking. Trembling. He climbed out of the well again along the rope. Hurriedly reported the matter to the village chief. After hearing this, the village chief couldn't figure out what the situation was. Can't be the master. Continue to escalate. The people above were very surprised to hear this. So he sent men. Look at what is going on. Because of the first 2 years. Also because someone dug tightly. Dig out the peach spring. Only then did the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang be discovered. So the man who was sent. It is estimated that it is another mausoleum. Those teachers are those who were buried. So I wanted to form an expedition team temporarily. Let's go to the cave first. Wait for confirmation before reporting. The village chief's brother-in-law, Buddhahood. He's going to be a platoon commander soon. So there is an urgent need to get some credit. So as not to make people gossip. The man sent from above. Take into account the ancient woods. All have feng shui patterns. So don't let the village chief again. Find someone who understands this. The village chief immediately thought of Wang Banxian. So they brought him here. The man sent from above said, no history. Educated people should also have. The whole village would be illiterate. I'm just a young intellectual. So the village chief found me again. I know this time. To say that you are not afraid is false. Who knows what's in that hole? But since the matter fell on his head, there is no way. Otherwise, it will offend the leadership. I don't say that I am wearing small shoes. I'm afraid I won't be able to go back to the city for 10 or 8 years. Finally, the personnel of the delegation were determined. Except for the 3 of us. There are also 2 militias. Are all people who are close to Buddhahood. Let's go along. You can also get some brains. But they didn't expect it. I went and never came back. Several of us went down the well one after another. Wang Banxian and I were apprehensive. So very cautious. Buddhahood and the 3 of them were gearing up. Can't wait. As if not to investigate. It's about playing. And waited until they went down to the cave in the earth. See frozen corpses with your own eyes. Immediately, he was also frightened. I saw a huge hole in the ground. There is no end in sight. Densely packed. It's all ice corpses frozen to death. They are also covered with a layer of ice forks. Maintain the demeanor of the previous life. Lifelike. The whiskers are visible. It seems like you could wake up at any moment. I was well read. Covers a wide range of topics. I am especially interested in history. That's why I fancy what those soldiers are wearing. It is the costume of the Middle and Late Tang dynasty. I just don't know. Nearly 1,000 years ago, they were. When did you come here? Why was he frozen to death here? A few of us stretched out to the hole. As we go deeper, the temperature around is getting colder and colder. It's cold. It's like being in an ice cellar. Frozen corpses were everywhere along the way. The amount is staggering. It is estimated that there are tens of thousands of sentences. I'm a little weird. It stands to reason. Such a bizarre casualty incident on such a large scale in the Tang dynasty. It should be recorded in the history books. But I'm searching for a long scrape. I didn't remember the relevant records in the book. I don't know how long I walked like this. Suddenly, I heard Wang Banxian behind him shouting, "Say what it is." I looked back. I saw him holding something in his hand. Like a fish. Bronze lock. It turned out to be a fishing charm. The fishing talisman was the generals of the Tang dynasty. Identification credentials for the deployment of troops. Similar to the tiger talisman. The names of the generals are engraved on it. I took the fishing talisman. The arrow is engraved with a line of words in ancient script. I know all the Wang Tianyan. I asked Wang Banxian where this thing came from. Wang Banxian said that he picked it up on the ground. He said he was getting older. Had legs. It won't be long. Sit down and rest. When I was resting just now, I saw this copper fish by accident. I stared at the fish talisman. I looked at the name Wang Tianyan for a long time. The more you look at it, the more familiar it becomes. Exhale the aroma. In the past, in the late Tang dynasty poet Duan City, written a book. There is an art story that Yang Zizhu has seen. It's about the early years of Tianbao. That is, the period of Xuanzong of the Tang dynasty. In Sishun of the Tang mansion of Anlu Mountain, tribute to Tang Xuanzong was given a Wu Ziyu belt. Tang Xuanzong liked it very much. Full praise for this jade. But it made the whole treasury searched. But only one was found. Cups made from this jade. Very annoyed, Jade sent someone to question the origin of this jade. Why didn't the Spanish Zhu fan pay tribute to Baoyu? Spanish Zhu fan said, tribute is paid every year. It's just that it's often one halfway, and the nation called Bethel the Younger was robbed, so it can't be sent to Datong. Tang Xuanzong was furious when he heard this. Gather all the ministers, and wanted to go on an expedition to the kingdom of Little Beth. Xuanchen disagreed. Only the right prime minister, Li Linfu, agreed. And one person was recommended. This person is Wang Tianyuan. According to that book, Wang Tianyuan led 40,000 soldiers and horses. The trek to the kingdom of Little Birth. Soldiers are coming to the city. King Bethrich was terrified. Sent a messenger to plead guilty. Said that as long as he was willing to withdraw from the army, willing to give Baoyu, and send people to the Tang dynasty every year to pay tribute. However, Wang Tianyuan did not agree to lead his troops to break through the city, slaughter the people of the city, and then with 3,000 prisoners of war, and countless gold, silver, and jewels departed. There is a book in the land of Bethrich that says, Wang Tianyuan slaughtered the people, and caused rivers of blood to flow in the city. The people are plunged into an abyss of misery. It's not easy. Go to the dry sky. There will be calamity. Wind and snow will fall from above. To become evil. Wang Tianyuan was on his way back. It's been less than 100 miles. I saw goose feathers and heavy snow falling from the sky. The wind is blowing. The wind blows through the waves in the sea. In an instant, it was frozen into icicles. The icicles were shattered by the wind again. It shows how strong the wind is. All 40,000 soldiers and horses froze to death in one moment. Only escaped death with 2 people. Returned to Datong. One of them is Wang Tianyuan. Wang Tianyuan played this matter to Tang Xuanzong. Tang Xuanzong Sutra immediately ordered someone to go to investigate. The man came to the place where he was born. See the soldiers in the sea like a mountain. The corpses of countless soldiers were frozen. They do or benefit. Still maintains the demeanor of his life. The man was dumbfounded. Hurry back. Walked a distance. Look back. The corpses of the soldiers. It's gone. Yang Zizhu is a collection of poems that question the country. It records a lot of customs of the Tang dynasty. Strange news died, but the content is mostly absurd. It is the work of Du Chuan. It cannot be regarded as historical data. So I didn't think of this book at first. But now it seems. The things in this book. It's not all one, either. It is believed to have been created based on some folk rumors at the time. It just makes me feel weird. The kingdom of Bethel, the lesser mentioned in the book, is far away in the western regions. It is more than 108,000 miles away from here. Why did the soldiers who had frozen to death appear here? This fishing rot should have been caused by Wang Tianyuan when he fled. It stands to reason. This is where the events of that year took place. What's going on here? I couldn't figure it out. Wang Banxian saw that I was looking at the fishing rod. Thoughtfully, he asked me what I had discovered. I told him what was in my heart. He was also confused. The two of us had a long discussion, but I couldn't find a suitable conclusion. And I suddenly found out. The other 3 were long gone. The 2 of us hurried after him. I chased it for about half an hour. Only then did they find out. Only to realize that something was wrong with them. They didn't move. Look straight ahead. I followed their line of sight and looked ahead. I was stunned. I saw the end of the Earth's movement. There was a city gate in the dark place. The door was locked in bronze. There are 3 or 4 grows taller. It's huge. On the mottled city gates, faintly turning the star red. It was as if blood was suddenly on it. The luster after the age of 9. On both sides of the city gates, towering are 2 huge stone statues. The statue was neither human nor animal. Demon hands and human body. The face is like a demon, killed to death. Giant fangs. Appearance and its ugliness are harmful. Eat a cake of steel forks in your hands. Glowered. Vicious. The door of this spiritual wood. Why is it so big? Gudajwang said in a poetic voice. This is not a spiritual tomb. Wang Banxian's face turned pale. The tomb of the ancients. Pay attention to the famous house Yongnan. Afraid of lonely souls and wild ghosts invading the tomb owner. Therefore, it is often carved in stone to carve the tomb of the heavenly tomb and the real tomb of the 2 divine beasts. However, the stone statue here is not a beast that drives away evil spirits. It's a yaksha. It is a thing of hell. Wang Banxian's words. It cast a shadow on everyone's hearts. If this is not a spiritual tomb, what is that? What the hell is in this door? I looked at the huge bronze gate. There was a sense of foreboding in my heart. Although it is far from the city gate, you can still feel the chill coming from the cracks in the city gate. At this time, I don't know who flashed the beam. Inadvertently swept over the gates. I saw that it seemed to be engraved with words. It's just that the word is crooked. It's like a ghost talisman. I don't recognize it. Wang Banxian also found out at this time. He stepped forward and looked up to read the word carefully. The exclamation point is stopped. There was a look of horror on his face. He said with a shudder, "It says the Iron Gate, also called Ghost Books. It is written for the dead. The words written on it are, In City. In City." I was stunned. Take a gasp. Isn't that the underworld? Don't talk nonsense. Gudaj Wang and the equator. There is no hell of a hell. Old man Wang, are you nonsense, am I? Your feudal superstitions are beginning to show their heads again. The skin is itchy again. Wang Banxian didn't pay attention to Gudaj Wang. He suddenly remembered something. He asked me eagerly. Today is the day of the month. I thought about it. It's July 1st, to be sure. In the morning, Antley next door was still chattering. It's early autumn today. July and a half are not far away. I'm going to burn paper for the old man. I just don't know if the organization will let it or not. Wang Banxian listened. The face became even paler. He kept his head down, muttered to himself. Yes. That's it. I understand. I was confused. So he asked Wang Banxian what he understood. Wang Banxian did not answer directly. Instead, he asked me a question. He asked me where the underworld was. I said that the underworld is underground. Maybe. I glanced at the bronze gate in front of me. Maybe it's the underworld inside. Wang Banxian shook his head. He said that the underworld is not underground. Even if you dig deep into the ground, that also belongs to the young world. And the underworld belongs to the underworld. The underworld and the young world are not connected. It can be said that it is another space. Another world. Just like those monks. All day long talking about Western Elysium. The East is like a pure land. It does not mean in the West and in the East. Rather, it refers to other worlds. And the only time between the underworld and the young is when they are connected. It is in July every year. As the saying goes, July is a fire. Go down and come in autumn. July is the time when the yin and yang of heaven and earth meet. Yang energy is in full swing and ear decay. Yin Qi appears. Hades is present. At that time, the door of the underworld will be wide open. Lord Yama will let the souls of the dead in the underworld come out to enjoy the blood food. Folk rumors say, the reason why Lord Yama released the soul of the dead, it is to let them go home and enjoy the sacrifice. In fact, this statement is wrong. Because after the death of man, if there is no karma, it is to be reincarnated. And those who remain in the underworld, it's often ghosts and ghosts. Let them out. What will be the consequences? It can well be imagined. It lasts until the mid-year festival. It is also commonly known as July and a half. The door of the underworld will be closed. That's why the people have the beginning of July. The ghost door opens. Ghost festival. A colloquial saying for ghosts. Because July and a half are. The last day the Defu gate was closed. Therefore, lonely ghosts will be particularly rampant. It is also easy for people to get sick on that day. The cause of the disaster. Use people in the 7.5 months. It is not only necessary to sacrifice to the ancestors. I also have to burn paper for some lonely ghosts. It is to let them enjoy the offerings. To be able to stop harming people. Leave unharmed. Then why did the king of Hades release resentful ghosts? Plague the world. I wondered if Wang Banxian shook his head. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of those ghosts. I've been in the underworld for a long time. Let them wind up. Do immortals have to be kind? Wang Banxian sighed. I know that he has been telling fortunes and looking at people all his life. I've seen too many human tragedies. I have also experienced too many injustices. He said again, these are all I say according to the folk, and some that my master told me in the past, speculated by a few words. July Hades reality. As for where it will appear, I don't think it's fixed. Maybe someone dug a river, dig a well, and it will lead to the underworld. Just like us. If that's the case, then the cave masters we saw earlier can be easily explained. They didn't die by the laws of heaven. Instead, He died in the world of Difu County, more than 1,000 years ago, and they had finished fighting against the kingdom of Bethel the Less. The returnee happened to meet the prefecture and county. The ghost door opens. Inchi gushes out, so much so that the wind is cold. The climate is suddenly cold. Heavy snowfall. Freeze these soldiers to death. As described in the group of foreign miscellaneous. Only 2 escaped. Imagine if it is really the evil deeds of the soldiers in the lobby of the heavenly city. How could they freeze to death the captives of the little kingdom of Bethleus? I nodded. It's just the little Bethrich warlock. Why do you say that it is a calamity from heaven? And how did he know where the underworld would appear? In ancient times, there were many consciousnesses of capable people. It can be deduced where the prefecture appears to be deficient in go. That's why he said that. It should be to deter Datong. Let him not dare to think of new recruits again. Wang Banxian continued. Presumably, the land above the underworld collapsed. The soldiers who froze to death were wrapped in blood and fell into the underworld, became a part of Hades. This is true again today. Be discovered by us. It can only be explained in this way, I said. Gu Dazhuang and the other 2 next to him were confused. I hurriedly explained the origin of those frozen corpses. I told them again. They were unimpressed. If that's the case, then we're so close to the underworld. Shall they also freeze to death? Wang Banxian glanced at the city gate. As soon as the ghost gate opened, the yin qi gushed out, the white ghosts were rampant, and the ring made us certain to die, so we had better go out quickly. I nodded in agreement and walked back with Wang Banxian. Gu Dazhuang stared at Wang Banxian. His eyes were very disdainful. I said, "Why do you old gods keep teaching? People die like lights go out. Where does the ghost come from in this world? In my opinion, this is a spiritual tree." Gu Dazhuang said so in his mouth, but he still followed us. And then at this time, I heard a loud bang. The sound was deafening. The dust above his head was falling rapidly. I looked back. I saw the door of the underworld slowly open. An eerie aura came to my face. The surroundings suddenly became extremely cold, ringing in your ears at any time. It sounded like a myriad of ghosts. It was as if I had seen countless ghosts swarming past me. A few of us were terrified. Wang Banxian shouted at the top of his voice and ran away. But my corpse leg has turned. I want to run, but he couldn't take a step. Gu Dazhuang was even more frightened and trembled, holding his head in his hands and locking it on the ground. The other 2 militias were in a similar situation. That's when I found out. People are scared to the extreme. You can't run. I thought to myself, I'm afraid of things today, so I'm going to die here. But a long time passed. Found myself, in addition to being a little cold, safe and sound. Look into the gate of the underworld. It's empty inside. Nothing came out. The previous sword inscription was like a dream. Gu Dazhuang was still squatting on the ground. Keep your eyes closed. Tears flowed. A look of horror on his face. A militiaman next to him patted him on the shoulder. He shuddered with fright. Then I saw water lying down my trouser legs. The militiaman didn't say anything. Cian stepped aside. It's been a long time. Gu Dazhuang opened his eyes. I found myself a little wet except for my pants. Nothing. He breathed a sigh of relief. Then he became angry, walked in front of Wang Banxian, who was looking at the gate of the underworld in confusion. Kick it down. What the hell? What about Ian? Don't we all have to die? Gu Dazhuang was furious. Water was still dripping from his trouser legs. Wang Banxian stood up and muttered to himself. What's going on? It shouldn't be. Gu Dazhuang listened. Was so angry that 1 Buddha was born and 2 Buddhas ascended to heaven. No. Do you think we all deserve to die here? Say it, and want to do it. I hurried to persuade him to stop. Everybody came in with me. I don't believe there can be ghosts in it. Gu Dazhuang was angry. Pull your legs and go inside. I can't go. There's a lot of Yin in there. Wang Banxian hadn't finished speaking. I saw Gu Dazhuang staring at him fiercely. Yin and Yang said angrily, Wang Taixian, you're sorry for your life. Live like a dog out there. Are you so afraid of death? Is it that scary? There's something wrong with your mind. Wait until I'm out. I'm going to have to give you another lesson. Wang Banxian said half of the words in his mouth. I swallowed it back raw. Someone of such an age. Creation is so humiliating. His face looked very ugly. I knew that Gu Dazhuang was scared and ugly just now. Lost face. See nothing now. I want to save some face. I'm not used to him though, but he didn't dare to raise his eyebrows. So he walked up to Wang Banxian and comforted him. Let's go. If the situation is not right, we're going to get it out. Wang Banxian sighed, said, You're a good guy. You shouldn't have followed this hell gate. Got in, but it's hard to come out. I smiled. But he didn't take Wang Banxian's words seriously. Walk through the massive bronze gates. It's like coming to another world. Suddenly there was a light inside. Look up at the sky. There is no sun or moon in the dim sky. Raise your eyes to depth. The surroundings were gray. It's not as dark as the cave in the ground, but it's eerie. There was an eerie atmosphere. There is no grass on the barren land. There are no trees either. Lifeless. I can't hear anything. The taboo was terrible. Only gusts of wind blow from time to time, whirling on the ground. It's cold. Blow to the person's body. Bone-chilling. The reason why Gu Dazhuang insisted on coming in, it was a dizziness at the time. Be willful. Now I see this scene. Timid heart. But it's not good to turn back. Let Wang Ban go with me first. The three of them followed. It took about a quarter of an hour to walk. A blue stone road appeared in front of the border. There are abysses on both sides of the road. Look down at the pitch black, bottomless. On that road, several people walked in fear. Wang Ban said first, This should be Huangquan Road. The sun and the moon are not visible. There is no dust down there. Saying goes, there are no young and old people on Huangquan Road. However, the ancient road on the bridge is divided. If the ghost crosses this Yellow Springs Road, arrived at the Naiho Bridge, he will never return to the sun. I nodded. But I always felt that there was something wrong on the way, until the road is almost finished. It occurred to me that I had just thought. It's not just this Huangquan Road. It's that the whole underworld is wrong. It is said that birth, old age, sickness and death, human. Countless people die every day. When they die, they will all come to this Meadow House. Take Huangquan Road, cross the Naiho Bridge, then reincarnate. I have seen descriptions of Huangquan Road in many books. It's about the ghosts on it that do it repeatedly, bustling. If you accidentally get pushed down, they can no longer be reincarnated. But why this Huangquan Road? Now it's so deserted. No ghosts. And we've been in the underworld for so long. But I didn't even see a god and ghost. Those bullheads and horse noodles. Where has the black and white impermanence gone? I thought about it for a long time, puzzled. At this time, Wang Banxian said to me, Cross Huangquan Road. It's the Wangchuan River. There is a bridge on it. It's the Naiho Bridge. It is said that Mingpu is next to the Naihe Bridge. Give people Mingpu soup. Drank Mingpu soup. It has nothing to do with the previous life. Is Mingpu still beside the Naihe Bridge now? I had a vague feeling in my heart. In this underworld, I'm afraid it's empty. Cross Huangquan Road. A few more people walked forward for a while. Sure enough, I saw a river in front of me. However, money looks. But he was so frightened that he couldn't possess his body. And there was no water left in the river. The dry river trough is filled with sea bones. Those sea bones covered the entire river. There is no end in sight. There is a blue stone arch bridge over the river. The bridge deck is narrow and smooth. It looks like it's hard to walk. It is said that this Wangshuan River is also known as the River of Blood. The river was full of blood. The waves are rolling. Worms and snakes are full of septs. The soul of the dead walks on the bridge of the Nai River. If you are a good person in life, there is the protection of gods and Buddhas to cross the bridge smoothly. If you are a wicked person in life, they will fall into the river and suffer forever. I just don't know this Wangshuan. How did it become like this? And all said, Emperor Ingsao's mansion is not only alive. And who are these corpse children? Wang Banxian said suspiciously. Gu Dazhuang saw such a scene. I was scared and trembled, nearly collapsed. Wang Banxian, do you think we're still going forward? I saw that Gu Dazhuang's face was pale, knowing that he was frightened. I go back. It's hard to bring it up yourself. This sentence wanted Wang Banxian to say. Who knows that Wang Banxian this time? But he didn't follow Gu Dazhuang's wishes. Wang Banxian said, now that they're all in, let's go further. Look at what's up ahead. I figured it out too. Sooner or later, this man will die. What am I afraid of as a bad old man? Like you said, there can still be ghosts in front of this. He stared at Gu Dazhuang. There was a cold glint in his eyes. It's like looking at a corpse. Gu Dazhuang was so angry that he gritted his teeth. There is fire and there is no fire. It is worth following up on the Naiho Bridge. The bridge was empty, just as I expected. Didn't see Mingpu. It's just that there is a stone table at the head of the bridge. There are dishes on top. It's already covered with dust. Standing on the bridge and looking up, as far as the eye can see, remote and desolate. It looks particularly desolate and deserted. It's like a deserted city. What about the people here? I couldn't help but ask. Wang Banxian shook his head. He said he didn't know either. Ever since I came in, I thought this underworld was very weird. I just don't know what's going on. Several people cautiously crossed the bridge. It didn't take long to walk on. A mountain ridge appeared in front of me. Face tree. Strange things are happening in the mountains. The road is rough. I asked Wang Banxian what kind of place this was. I've never heard of a mountain in the underworld. Wang Banxian thought for a moment. Said this should be Vicious Dog Ridge. It is said that it was full of dogs that had died in the sun, being skinned and cramped, boil bones and eat meat, so very resentful towards people. See the souls of people. Then they will pounce on the hummingbird, especially those fed dog meat. Dog thieves. You can't get past it. Often here, chased and bitten by vicious dogs, out of one's wits. Past the Vicious Dog Ridge, there is also a mountain of thorns ahead. The strength in the mountains. Don't look at being slaughtered in the sun. It's not a mountain fork here. Crowds pounced. You can't even open your eyes. Will be like iron. Shine on the four-cylinder. Focused on the eyes clumsy. Grasp towards the heart and liver. Go down with one paw. The skin of a person who can be scratched is open, until the heart and liver are caught. It will not disperse until it is eaten cleanly. After the death of a person, zhuang is often in the hands of the king, stuffed with dry food and dog sticks. It's just that he failed to pass the vicious dog collar smoothly, and in the coffin put 5 strands of miscellaneous grains. It is prepared for the souls of the dead when they cross the Mount of Thorns. Just as it stands, this vicious dog collar in the Mountain of Thorns, there should be no more evil dog thorns. I nodded, but what I didn't expect was this. Wang Ban is now wrong. We entered Vicious Dog Ridge, walked to the peninsula. Suddenly, I faintly heard the barking of dogs, swim far and near. Several people were so frightened that their faces changed. Flee for the road, running and running. I looked back, and he saw that the mountains behind him were full of wild dogs. Those dogs were all in search of bones. It seems that I have been hungry for a long time, but it is extremely ferocious. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Piercing teeth. Chase us. Wang Banxian's leg is not good. Count the slowest to run. Limping and running. I also tripped over a rock. I saw it later. Hurriedly stopped to help him, but he shook off my hand. He said he couldn't run anymore. Can't live. Let me go. I hear that. I feel very uncomfortable. I'll have to die if I stay. But if you just leave him here, I can't bear it. It's hard to make a decision at once. I don't know what to do. Just stunned for a moment. The vicious dogs have caught up. I'm done thinking. Now I'm afraid I can't leave if I want to. Just when you close your eyes and die. Just listen to Wang Banxian's voice. I opened my eyes and looked, but I saw those vicious dogs, howling past us. It's like they didn't see us. And at some point, there were many people in front of me. The men fled in confusion under the pursuit of the vicious dogs. Those who run slowly are pounced on and bitten by vicious dogs. Some of them had their hands and feet bitten off. Some were disemboweled. The stomach is left on the ground. Wailing and clutching his stomach, he crawled forward. Looking at current events, it was miserable. For a while, the entire Vicious Dog Ridge was like hell. Gudazhuang and the 3 of them ran in front, now in the middle of the dog pack. See the horror around you. Look at the stumps and severed arms. I couldn't help but be scared away. Shivering. In a trance. A gust of wind blew. Suddenly there was silence. Those canine lung sounds. The sound of struggle. Screams. They all disappeared. The dog and the men were gone. Everything that came before. It's like it didn't happen. Wang Ban and I faced each other first. I don't know what's going on. This underworld Wuyue found it weird. A few of us were fine. Escape in private, thankfully. But to think, there is also a mountain of thorns ahead. I couldn't help but chuckle in my heart. Keep going. But strangely, walked for a long time, but he didn't encounter the thorn mountain. Instead, I saw a huge deep pit. The pit is so big that you can't see the end at a glance. There were many bones scattered inside. These bones. Some had broken skulls. Some had mutilated limbs. The death was terrible. Most of them still have weapons in their hands. I don't know what these weapons are made of. After many years, I can't help but rust. Instead, it gives light and brightness, flashing with a cold light. It's like there's been a big war here. It's just not known who these people who died in battle. I said. I'm afraid these are not people. Wang Banxian's words surprised me. Wang Banxian said, look at the color of these bones. It is not as yellow as an ordinary skeleton, but it is as white as blood. This is clearly not right. And Wang Banxian pointed to the front and said, look. I looked in the direction of Wang Banxian's finger, immediately stunned. There's a skeleton there. Gigantic. It is 2 or 3 zhang long. What's even more surprising is that, behind the valley, there is a pair of different valleys. Other words, this man had wings in his life. It's like a flying leaf fork. What kind of monster is this? Wang Banxian said, there is no one in the underworld. Some are just ghosts and gods. There are many kinds of gods. There is justice and evil. Not all of them look. That's what people think. Pioneer to the bone of human form, especially the Yin god of the underworld. They tend to look strangely shaped, human-like, non-human, such as bullhead and horse face, black and white impermanence, etc. In addition to these well-known Yin gods in the underworld, there are many other Yin gods. There are many such Yin gods, but the ability is the enemy. Therefore, it is also known as the god of hair. It's almost the same as the grass-headed god under the well-known Erlang god. Although there are gods, but if it's a ghost, nothing. They are the lowest among the gods. In my opinion, this skeleton is the Yin god. I just don't know why I died here. Wang Banxian and I were discussing. I listened to Gu Dazhuang urging us to leave quickly, muttering this eerie and harmful. You can't stay long. A few of us walked forward again. I passed the pit. Then a village appeared in front of me. Look far away. The streets of the village are full of people. Heavy traffic. It looks very lively. It's like a bazaar. The cries of the vendors inside are incessant. There are a lot of items. The whole 9 yards. There is also juggling in the bazaar. Entertainer. It's very lively. It's exactly like a human market. In this eerie horror, covered with corpses and full of strange places, I didn't expect there to be such a familiar one. Feel the intimate bazaar. Gu Dazhuang led 2 militiamen into the village. I just wanted to keep up. Was stopped by Wang Banxian. There was wariness in his eyes. He told me not to go. I was just about to ask why. At this time, a few people appeared behind him. They were dressed in blue and green. There was a panicked look on his face, coming towards us. And then it was like he didn't see us. Rubbed shoulders with us. When they saw the bazaar in the village, he looked happy to walk towards the village. But as soon as they stepped into the village, then I saw that the scene in the market suddenly changed. Look at the village again. Where else is there a bazaar? It's full of people with broken limbs. They are plundering the limbs of those who have gone in before. Will be ripped off them. Blood-drenched limbs rested on themselves. Those who had regained their limbs left happily, and those who have lost their limbs wail in agony. The smell of blood permeated the entire village. It's terrifying. Wang Ban said first. This is a wild goat village. Some of the broken people inside, all from vicious dog ridge. Him Kisan escaped, because of the loss of a limb. Can't move on. So it's worth gathering in this village. Transfiguration confuses the new souls. Enter the village. Plunder their limbs. Keep going. I was horrified to hear it. Look at Gu Dazhuang and the 3 of them again. It was in the village at this time. All around are the evil spirits and demons with mutilated limbs. I was so scared that I was trembling. I didn't dare to move. In times of crisis, suddenly, I heard the sound of a song jing coming from all directions. The souls of the dead were in great pain when they heard the prayer. They fell to the ground, covering his ears and struggling and wailing. I only heard the sound of the song jing getting faster and faster, getting more and more irritable. I couldn't hear what was being said. In the end, the tone becomes very weird. The sound is loud and small. It's very unbearable. Continue. Song Jingsheng disappeared. The souls are gone. All was quiet again. It's like nothing happened. The village was empty. Nothing. Gu Dazhuang slowly stood up. Pale face. What happened before? It really scared him a lot. Although the rest of his life after the catastrophe. But I still have palpitations. Cursing in the mouth. What the hell is this place? So weird. I saw Wang Banxian's face solemn. Pondered for a long time. Not a word. So he asked him, what the hell is going on? It's this chanting that is studied. Gu Dazhuang them. Why those revenants? And they are all like the vicious dogs they have encountered before. Suddenly disappeared. Wang Banxian shook his head and said, this Buddha has a strange tone. There is an evil aura in the gloom. It makes people feel very uncomfortable listening to it. It's not a good sound. Buddhahood and others were not saved by this life. They weren't in danger in the first place. The sword demon looked puzzled. He continued, the vicious dogs we saw earlier in the vicious dogs. And the ghosts I just saw. None of them are real. It's an illusion. Illusion. We could all see it clearly. How could it be an illusion? I was surprised. Wang Banxian asked me, do you know about a mirage? I nodded. Wang Banxian said, this fantasy is like a mirage on Earth. I have heard Master mention it. It's eerie inside the underworld. Inside a kidney chi is pervasive. Scenes from the past can be re-revealed. When I was in Vicious Dog Ridge before, I saw those vicious dogs disappear suddenly. I suspect that it was the image of this kidney chi conjuring. I just don't know if my guess is correct. Until just now, seeing the souls of the dead is not visible to us. I was able to confirm that weird song Jingsheng just now. It is also the illusion of kidney chi. I asked again. Wang Banxian nodded. He said, this scene of kidney chi being transformed. It's much more seismic than a human maritime leak. The Burning Man has no senses, so it's easier to confuse people. Something must have happened in this place. Otherwise, there would be no such sight. Let's move on. See what else you find. I've been through so many horrible things. It's already a little more comfortable. I want to turn around and go back. But I heard Wang Banxian say this. It's hard to open your mouth for a while. It's worth moving on. Buddhahood and the three of them didn't dare to walk around anymore. Follow cautiously. I walked for about half an hour. I saw a large number of bones in front of me. Same as what I saw before. The skeleton is strangely shaped. Some are 3 or 4 zhang long. The skull is huge. The mouth is full of fangs. Some are only 3-handed. 6-armed on his back. It's like Naza. Some resemble a large, uncovered snake. Chicken feet on his head. Strange. Hurt people to hear. Walk through this ancient sea of poetry. A magnificent palace appeared in front. It is 6 or 7 zhang high. Pull out of the ground for a day. Man stands under it. Like ants. Behind the palace is an abyss. Bottomless. It's pitch black. It's terrifying. There is also a building on the opposite side of the abyss. Golden-topped bead door. The feet are upturned. It also looks very majestic. In front of the door, there are 4 statues of King Kong of Fury guarding the door. Seems like a punchline. Far away from the palace. For Tat. This palace and a temple. How to build in such a place. It's weird to look at. Buddhahood glanced at the abyss. Daoshi said with a cool breath. I saw Wang Banxian staring at the iron door carved on the forehead of the palace. So he asked him what was written on it. Wang Banxian said, it is written the name of the temple. Simber Temple. That is, where the king of Yama is. I was taken aback. Said, it is said that there are 10 halls of Yama in the underworld. How do you see a palace now? Wang Banxian shook his head. He said he didn't know. A few of us entered the Sanluo temple. There are 9 pillars in the temple. The pillars are carved with ghosts, facing the hideous. It makes the whole hall look eerie. The decoration of the main hall resembles an ancient court for interrogating prisoners. It's just a mess. The walls on the ground are covered with stains from the Star Red House. It's like a stain of blood behind the old age. In the middle of the main hall, there is a swallow platform. There was a skeleton on it. The bones were bareheaded, petal on the clouds, dressed in a Kowloon robe. Clothes are locked. Although it has gone through thousands of years, it is not convinced. The years have not been able to hide its magnificence. Such clothing. Isn't it an imperial costume? That man. Imo is not the ruler of the imperial palace, King Yama. Wang Banxian said, I already have in my heart the king of this imperial palace, King Tianzi, who is in charge of life and death in the world. Will it die too? And how did he die? I took a closer look at the valley. See on the chest of the sea valley, there is a big hole in the mouth of the bowl, where a chest and a back through. The ribs in his chest were shattered. It seems to have been penetrated by some weapon. Who can kill Hades? I'm surprised. At this time, I faintly heard a noisy sound outside. It seems to be the chanting of a monk. The presentation is very quiet. It's vague and unreal. Then the voice grew louder and louder. It is also getting clearer and clearer. The bravery is a great sound, buzzing in the ears. The sound of the scripture is the same as it was heard before. The tone is weird, or the heart of the man. It's terrifying. Listening to it makes my scalp tingle. It's weird. Several of us looked at each other. I don't know what's going on out there. Hurry to the outside of the temple. After seeing the scene in front of you, The show was dumbfounded. My heart was so shocked that I couldn't do more. I saw that the sky was full of gods and Buddhas. Among them was a monk, wearing a crown of Pyru, dressed in a brocade blue robe. One hand holds 9 rings wrapped around his palm, holding a lotus flower in one hand. Sit cross-legged on the lotus platform. Stretch the golden Buddha light. There are countless monks next to him to protect each other. It is surrounded by many Buddhist apologetic gods such as dragons and leaf forks. There were 10 people standing opposite the monks. Each head wears a waver, dressed in a dragon suit. The air is magnificent. It's majestic. There are also countless gods and ghosts behind them, looking at the monk with fierce eyes. I only heard the monk chant a Buddha horn. The sound was like thunder. Stand up. Hold a cane in hand. Slide downward. The mountains shook in an instant. There are 10 connected Hongbei palaces on the ground. 9 of them were wiped out. As for one of them, after the dust settles, I saw only where the 9 palaces were. An abyss appeared. I'll let it know at this point. It turned out that the abyss had been carved out of a rod. I also understand why there are fewer hotels in the underworld. A casual blow from the monk. It's so terrifying. It's chilling. The attendants in the air face the provocation of the monks. The face is very ugly, but they don't dare to act rashly. The gods and ghosts in the back. They all looked horrified, lost his previous sharpness. It's chilling. No one dared to speak. The monk struck after shaking the poet. Look at them. His eyes shone with gold, but he didn't do anything. The 2 sides were at a stalemate for a long time. No one dared to take the lead. After the accompaniment, the 2 sides quietly withdrew their troops. Tensions dissipated. It's a scene change. The gods and Buddhas in the sky. It's getting blurry. Dissipate into the invisible. The stars are moving. I don't know how long it took. Disk of the abyss. A red north temple rises from the ground. It echoes with the Senbo Hall opposite, into a matter of competing with it. There is a flag in front of the temple. There are 8 big characters written on it. Hell is not empty. You don't become a Buddha. I was shocked. This hell is not empty. You don't become a Buddha. It refers to the souls of the dead who have crossed into hell, or the gods who have crossed into hell. Think about it. I don't feel a chill in my heart. Wu Fei spit it out. Time flies. I don't know how many years have passed. The scene as you see it changes again and again. All that has arisen is a dispute between the 2 parties. The fight continues. The killings continued. Up to one day. The drums of war shook the sky. Surprise. The gods and Buddhas are here. The air was black and pressing. The monk held his head high. The robe on his body was blown by the wind and made a strong noise. There is a kind of knight who rebels against the world. He stared at the other side. The complexion is calm and indifferent. It's like you're not facing the gods of the underworld. Rather, it is thousands of Buddhist believers waiting to teach the Dharma and receive the scriptures. There was a smell of blood in the air. A great battle between gods and Buddhas is about to pull off Su's mother. I am a Buddha with compassion. Take away the sinners of the 3 realms. The monk said a Buddha name. Be the first to strike. Oral recitation of Sanskrit sounds. This Sanskrit sound is not an ordinary Sanskrit sound. It's a deadly Sanskrit sound. Let the soul fly. Listen to the distraction. Those ghosts and gods who are weak in their ways. Listening to the tyrants fell down from the clouds one after another. Death is gone. Although I knew that everything in front of me was transformed by kidney chi, then I heard the Sanskrit sound. I can't help but be angry and bloody. Soul-shattering. I almost fainted in time. The 10-person sword battle suitori with tears in the air wearing 9 dragon robes, and surrendered with a loss of troops. The face is gloomy. Can't hold back. Fight with the monk together. The monk is armed with a cane. With an enemy. The 2 sides were evenly matched. The battle was fought to the ground. The sun and the moon have no light. The monk lifted out the golden body. It is 7 or 8 feet high. Majestic posture. Buddha light thinks. It shook so much that people couldn't open their eyes. The one side of the cane in his hand is huge. A cane smashes down. He leveled a hill. Smashed out a deep pit more than 10 miles in a circle. Even so, the poet was not afraid. The great powers of the war. Divisional practice. A wind gusts in the underworld. Ghost forest. Countless resentful spirits let out heart-piercing screams, whistling and rushing towards the monk. The Buddha is a great saint in the monk's body. Force those resentful ghosts to get close. The 2 parties go back and forth. It's hard to crack. Meanwhile, and the rest of the heavens stood together. The battle was fought extremely fiercely. never die. There are swords and swords everywhere. In the dead sand, bodies continue to fall from the sky. It didn't take long. The falling corpses filled the river below. The corpses were piled up. There is no place to chase. The controversy between Buddhism and Taoism. Wang Banxian was looking at the tragic scene in front of him. For words came out of his mouth. The controversy between Buddhism and Taoism. I don't know what Wang Banxian means. The old monk occupies the light of the Buddha. There are Buddhist apologetic, and the crowd does not embrace each other. It must not be an ordinary Buddha. In the underworld, someone who can have such a solemn appearance. Except for the Jizo King Bodhisattva. Who could it be? And the people who fight with it. Dressed in a dragon robe. It must be the Ein son of the underworld. It's 10 o'clock Yama. The two sides are one Buddha. Both are the venerables of the two religions. But here's a big fight. How could it be because of personal vendettas? It must be a sectarian dispute. About this controversy over Buddhism. I've heard about it. In the past, it was only a struggle between monks and Taoists in the world. But I didn't expect that this God and Buddha would be the same. After listening to Wang Banxian's words, I immediately understood. In fact, about the controversy of Buddhism and Taoism. I have also seen this in many historical sources. The controversy between Buddhism and Taoism has existed since ancient times. As early as the Eastern Han Dynasty, Taoism flourished and Buddhism came to the East. It is inevitable that there will be a fight between the two religions over the adherents. This kind of feud even spread to the court. Some emperors believed in Buddhism and prayed. Some believe in the Tao, but not in the Buddha. I suddenly remembered the Tang soldiers I saw who were frozen to death. They died in the disaster of the prefecture and county. But the world is so big. But the underworld appeared where they were marching. Is this just a coincidence? Are they really just bad luck? To know. It was at the height of the controversy between Buddhism and Taoism. At that time, the Tang Emperor Tang Xuanzong was a famous Taoist emperor. However, the kingdom of Peti Bolu, which he ordered to attack, was Buddhist. Difu counties and cities led to the annihilation of the 40,000-strong army of the Tang dynasty. Is this Buddhism for Tang Xuanzong? A warning to over-worship Taoism. It's scary to think about. The controversy between Buddhism and Taoism has lasted for thousands of years. It was only later that both religions gradually declined. There are also fewer and fewer religious people. The dispute between the two religions is less obvious. Come on now. The reason for the decline of the two religions. I don't know if it's fighting with each other. The gods and Buddhas who died too much in battle are related. But he said that he didn't know how long this battle had been fought. Fight to the end. Both sides were wiped out. The king of the earth Bodhisattva no longer has the Buddha's light to protect the body. This body is in tatters. Hot golden blood. Lowered from the wound. Falling to the ground with a clatter. And the stone hall Yama is even more miserable. The three of them were beaten and fell into the abyss. Life and death unknown. 6 people fought for their lives. Turned into a pool of blood. There are no bones left. For the saint, one person is still struggling to insist. He was pierced through the chest with a shovel. A hole the size of a bowl is exposed. Mortals are long dead. But he still stands. Unobtrusive. His eyes were full of pride. In the bloody rain, step by step, he walked towards King Jizo. Teeter. But unusually determined. The look of the king of Jizo is calm and calm at all times. Finally became solemn. At this time, a cloudy wind blew. What I saw. It's getting blurry. Then the fog dissipated. The final life and death battle between the Buddha and the Tao. I didn't see it. It's just that the ending is not difficult to guess. I remembered the skeleton in the Senro temple. That was the last Yama to die in battle. But if we say that Buddhism wins, not necessarily. The two religions fought here. The fight is nothing more than the underworld. But now the dungeon is empty. It doesn't seem to have fallen into the hands of Buddhism. Instead, it was abandoned and turned into an empty city. So it seems. The king of the earth Bodhisattva is afraid that it is also more auspicious than lucky. Then why don't the two religions of Fu Dao send people to take charge of the underworld? I heard the old man Li Jianzhong talk about this. I couldn't help but ask. Old man Li Jianzhong shook his head. He said he didn't know either. I didn't understand this question until many years later. It turned out that this seemingly extremely tragic battle of the underworld. This is just the tip of the iceberg in the battle of Buddhism. And the real battlefield is above the 9 skies. That's the war between gods and Buddhas. It is also the end of the gods. After that war, there is no god or Buddha in time. After that, there is no God in heaven. There are no ghosts underground. That's for later. The old man Li Jinzhong wanted to continue to tell what happened in the underworld back then. I saw him talk for a long time. Knock and knock. I'm afraid he's tired. I wanted him to rest first. He waved his hand. Say if you lie down. I don't know if I'll be able to wake up again. I don't want to bring that experience into the gate. I saw him say that. I had to listen quietly to him as he continued. The old man Li Jinzhong continued. A few of us already know the truth about the underworld. I wanted to go back. However, at this time, it was discovered. Wang Ban disappeared first. Gu Dazhuang scolded in his mouth. Annoyed that Wang Banxian delayed things. I want to leave Wang Banxian behind. I didn't agree. Convinced Gu Dazhuang and the three of them to wait for a while. It didn't take long. Then he picked up the king's half-immortal and came out of the Siluo palace. I asked him what he was doing. He didn't answer. Just slipped something into my pocket. You want me to see it when I get back? I see the mystery of God. Although I was a little curious, but I didn't think much about it. A few of us came back from a long distance, because I saw it when I came. So it's okay to be weird about those weird things. I'm not so scared anymore. I thought I would be able to go back safely. I didn't know that something suddenly happened when I walked to the peninsula. First, Gu Dazhuang said that something was wrong. Anyway, it's getting colder. I saw that his face was blue from the cold, trembling with his hands on his hands. His voice trembled, and so do others. Let's go. Let's go. It won't be cold to walk any further. Wang Banxian looked at Gu Dazhuang. His eyes were cold and terrifying. It's like looking at a corpse again. I'm a little weird. It's cold in this place, but the same as before. I didn't feel any change. Gu Dazhuang them. Why do you suddenly feel unbearable cold? We walked on for a while. Gu Dazhuang's legs were frozen, walking slower and slower. His face was also getting paler. In the end, it couldn't be supported. He fell headlong to the ground. I hurried forward, only to find that a layer of hoarfrost had grown on his body. There is no breath left. He was frozen to death. Although I also hate Gu Dazhuang, but we came in together after all. Now he's dead here. I still feel like I'm vomiting to death in Hubei. Instead, it was the other two militias. There was no sadness on his face. On the contrary, he kept urging him to hurry up. Otherwise, I'm going to freeze to death here. Unexpectedly, their words were not true. I walked forward for a while. They are also like Gu Dazhuang. Fell headlong to the ground. Death in the desolate spring. Now only me and Wang Banxian are left. Wang Banxian couldn't walk anymore. He said that there was a lot of yin in this place. Loved ones have all kinds of internal organs. It will make people colder and colder. His legs were already frozen. I said, don't be afraid. I'm just backing. I will carry you out too. Wang Banxian smiled. He waved his hand. Say no. He said, what am I going to do out there? I'm here, and on the outside. It's all hell. Gu Dazhuang. They are not human. They are ghosts. It's a demon. They should stay here. You're different. You're a good guy. So you can't die here. You're going out. I had a hard time listening to it, but I'm not going to let him go. Like he said, even if I could carry him out, but I can't get him out of hell. I had no choice but to leave. The five of us came in together. I didn't expect to be able to go back. I'm the only one left. After going out, I found that the militia in the field had been removed. Back to the village. The village chief was surprised to see me. He said I had been in for so many days. I didn't expect to come back alive. I was a little surprised. I found out after inquiry. At this time, according to me, I went down the well. But I remember it. It only took a few hours to go down. I'm going to build a text in the underground house. Tell it to the people sent down from above. He naturally didn't believe it. Thought I was going down the well too long. Something went wrong mentally. Then he sent down again. But he could no longer find the hole in the well. Other words, the hole in the ground disappeared out of thin air. The people sent down from above must have also felt the weirdness of the matter. It didn't take long for the well to be filled. The matter is closed. A few days later, I was inadvertently in my pocket. A human finger bone was found. The bones were as white as snow. But it's hard. I suddenly remembered. It was in the underworld that day. After Wang Banxian came out of the Sinluo mat, I put something in my pocket. I think, here's why. I'm not like other privates. Invaded by the Yin Qi in the underworld. And the reason for freezing to death. Because this is the Valley of Hades. It's cold in Yin. It doesn't have a cold atmosphere. It was Wang Banxian who saved me. I built a clothed species for Wang Banxian, kowtowed a few times before his grave. Soon after, I left the village. I went back to my hometown. That's the story. That's the end of it. The old man Li Jianzhong was lying on the bed. His eyes were open. I didn't speak again for a long time. I don't know what I'm thinking. I wanted to get some rest. Just wanted to leave. The old man Li Jianzhong suddenly asked, "You said that the underworld is gone. Where will I go when I die?" How would I know? I had to shake my head. Old man Li Jianzhong let out a long sigh. Oh yes, if there is a prefecture, there is a place to go after death. If the prefecture is gone, where will the soul return when the man dies? The next day, when I came to Li Jianzhong's house again, he has passed away. After taking care of the funeral for the elderly, when cleaning his room, I found a red cloth bag in a drawer. Inside was a branch as white as snow. What I didn't expect was this. Years later, I'll rely on the knotted human bones. On the 7th day of the 6th month, the door was opened. Enter the gate of heaven. Thanks to the remnants of the Great War of God and Buddha. That's for later.